documenting the front lines of the AI revolution, the AI Rebels podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the AI Rebels podcast. Today, we're doing another kind of news clip show like we've been doing recently. Start off with, Jake, did you see that Jony Ive finally confirmed that he is building the device with OpenAI?
Yeah, which is, I mean, I'm fascinated. I don't think I've seen specifics on what exactly they are building.
Yeah.
I know it's a hardware, AI hardware, which is fascinating. I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
What's brewing.
I don't think that they have even announced exactly what it is yet. But apparently he hired another Apple iPhone designer away from Apple to work on this.
Oh man.
So it's gonna be really interesting to see what comes out of it. Because honestly, it's like I've been pretty pessimistic about about AI hardware so far. Because it's just like, to me, it's like you don't need a dedicated device to access chat.openai.com,
Right. Yeah.
And
No,
so
I'm
super curious to see what they do, because I can think of a lot of ways in which they can integrate their systems at a deeper level than that. But I don't know how they're going to do it.
I mean, I hope Jony Ives embodies the true Apple spirit of Steve Jobs in the innovation aspect, and that it's not here's a rewrapped different looking iPhone.
Exactly. Here's iPhone, and we've got red colorways instead of just black and silver or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. And AI is, I don't know. I'll be really interested if he's this works. Let me just rinse and repeat, or if it's a
I hope that I too hope that they reach further than just here's a phone with ChatGPT as a first a native feature. I think that there is the possibility. Again, I don't think that we've seen it so far, but I do think that there is a possibility that you could create some AI hardware that's really interesting. For example, the toy that Rahul brought up in our last episode. That's
awesome.
Yeah, no, that's the most interesting AI hardware I've seen so far. That, and also I saw one where it used someone repurposed a camera where the camera would just feed a picture of the scene in front of them into ChatGPT. ChatGPT would generate a description for it and then send that description to, I don't remember if it was Midjourney or Dolly or what they used, but then they used an AI service to generate the scene instead of just taking a picture of it, which again, it's not it's not that useful actually. But it is a really interesting use case, and at least artistically, right? That's an interesting way of approaching things. And so I'd love to see some weird, wacky things like that, along with all the standard stuff that you should expect from what they are claiming is an iPhone competitor. So
yeah. And I want to be a little shocked. I want to be if you think of I don't know, I want it to be something. I don't know if they can compete with the insanity of the iPad or iPhone when it first came out, but it'd be cool to almost be skeptical of it because it's so new and different, and to see.
No, exactly.
To see where it went.
I'd love to have the same feeling that I did when I first opened up ChatGPT, holy shit, the future is here ahead of schedule.
Seriously. Yeah, exactly. Kind of a similar vein. I saw that Intel recently struck a deal to develop AI chips, is my understanding, with Amazon. Which Intel has been struggling recently with AI just because they don't do AI chips. And
interesting.
As soon as the deal was struck, stock prices obviously jumped, as they seem to do if you even mention you're thinking of developing AI chips right now. Which I think is good because it's an incentive further the industry. You know, it's like getting these giants
No,
to
exactly.
get involved.
Yeah, like if this partnership works out, then it's like there's a an actual competitor to NVIDIA, right? Because it's like you have like these little startups of, you have Grok, which has I think their linear processing units, and then you have Google with their tensor processing units, right? You have like these little like competitors, but it's like those technologies are not as well developed as, NVIDIA's.
Right.
And probably even Intel's. But obviously Intel is not good at AI yet. It'll be really interesting to see if they can pull it off. I wouldn't be surprised if they can, just because like that's a huge investment they're making.
Right.
And to me, it kind of feels like if they don't pull this off, like Intel is in some very, very serious trouble. So
right. Well, and they have the whole infrastructure for like building chips, right? So they just have to alter it, take the existing infrastructure, and then alter it, which is, it seems like that would be easier than from the ground up, like a lot of startups are trying to do.
I wish I knew more about the chip manufacturing process, so I have a more informed opinion here.
I know. Yeah.
Something to go read about.
I know. Yeah, exactly. I love the incentive. It sometimes makes me a little nervous how quickly the market responds to AI themes right now.
Seriously. But I like the description of the market, and I don't remember where I got it from, but like the description of the market is a crazy guy who on a day-to-day basis, like terrible at assigning value, but over like the long term, like very, very good at it.
Exactly.
And hopefully that holds true, that like, in the short term, he's like, yo, this is crazy. He's just really excited right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And hopefully that comes down softly. If it doesn't meet the hype.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it's a partnership with Amazon as well.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Makes
Amazon
me wonder what exactly
really wants
Amazon's
to be
plans
the
are.
everything. Yeah, they want to be the everything company, it seems like.
In some ways, and this is a little bit of a heretical opinion for someone in tech, but in some ways, it really worries me how big Amazon is getting. A good 40% of the internet runs off of AWS. That's crazy.
That's insane.
That's huge. I don't have many thoughts beyond that. I just wanted to get that out there. Of like, AWS is getting crazy big, and it's like, at what point does it become almost a national security threat to keep all of our eggs in that one basket? Like, what do we do?
Totally. Well, national security threat, and also just like threat to innovation. I feel like as soon as you lose competition, because who can compete with that, innovation slows, because they don't have any reason. And I think we've kind of seen that a little bit with the iPhone, where it's like, we can just now map 10 years and just stick to our schedule. It's like, we're the big dog. We can just map it out, and we don't have to push.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
and it seems similar with Amazon.
Yeah, but maybe this will kind of spur some other competition as well.
Yeah, I hope so. One other quick thing, before I have a question for you, but another quick thing in the news that I saw is maybe you saw this too, but the House of Representatives in the United States just announced, it's a collaboration with the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer, and they're basically trying to deploy AI in the government to help modernize the House's operations, which to me,
That'd
I'm like,
nice.
welcome to the party.
I think that'll be really interesting, and I'm really hopeful for applications of AI like that, partly because the world is more complicated than it used to be, right? Like it gets more and more complicated every day. And I think that AI offers a really effective solution to a lot of the problems. Because there's going to be some people who say, "Oh, it's your fault. Like AI is making the world more complicated." And I'm like, no, it's not. It happened long before AI. Traditional tech has plenty of incentive to create complicated structures already, and traditional business, traditional knowledge work, etc. Right? Like that's inherent to humanity already. And in some ways, and this is a little bit of a crackpot theory, but in some ways, I think that humanity kind of forces itself to develop better information sharing technology when it becomes necessary. So I mean, like the printing press, that was invented and led to an explosion in knowledge and research. Prior to that, like it was in a little bit of a lull. Like, it wasn't like the Dark Ages, right? But it's like they were in a little bit of a lull. Alchemy wasn't progressing, right? Suddenly the printing press comes out. Alchemy, because, Frederick in Sweden and John in England can now read each other's books. Now, John in England is like, oh my gosh, Frederick realized something that I didn't. And Frederick in Sweden says, oh no, John realized something I didn't. I'm going to borrow his technique and mix it with mine and create something new.
Exactly.
And like I said, this is a little bit of a crackpot theory. It's a little bit like, tautologist or whatever. But in some ways, I feel like AI is serving that same purpose today, where there's, even to just have a working understanding of computers, like you have to have some knowledge of what's going on under the hood, right? Like you don't have to, understand everything, like the logic gates and, how the current flows and et cetera. But you have to have like just some general idea. And that's hard to do. Especially for, it's harder for some people than others too. And this technology, I think, is really effective when applied in that way. So I'm excited to see how it affects our legislation. Hopefully it produces some better written legislation.
Yeah. Let's see if we can maybe summarize some of these 15,000 page bills.
And then one more point here is like a development like this also opens the way for like individual like expert AIs to be developed. Like, say like in the House, they want consultation from the agricultural industry on a particular, water bill that they're considering. Like just boot up agriculture.gpt or whatever and ask it the questions that you need.
I hope they use presidents' names. The overall AI for the whole government can be George.
just George.
I think that's got potential.
Or Uncle Sam.
Yeah, there you go.
Someone recommended that one to me the other day because I was making jokes on Twitter. I was like, making jokes like, Elon is clearly not interested in maintaining the quality of discourse. The U.S. government should seize Twitter from it and nationalize it, like just making jokes like that. And so I did one about OpenAI, and someone gave me that suggestion that if the U.S. government nationalized ChatGPT, they should rename it Uncle Sam. And I just thought that was brilliant. So
that would be amazing.
We're going to repeat the joke.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I think it also shows, and this maybe kind of leads into the question I had for you, but I think this acceptance by the government of AI shows like the overall progression and how the populace is it's becoming normal. It's not as novel anymore because the government is very risk averse. And so they're finally like, okay, it's been tested enough that we want to use it, which is exciting.
And I think that I would bet that a lot of people in the government were already using it pretty extensively prior to this and just weren't talking about it very loud. Because I have heard that story repeated across so many different industries. Like I know a bunch of people who work in the AI ML side of music, but also who have, connections in the traditional music world and like, real connections, not just like, oh, my friend Jimmy has a band and they post some songs on Spotify. Like people with actual industry credentials, and every single one of them is like, yeah, every single major music label, every single major artist is either using this already or figuring out how to apply it.
Yeah, you have to.
And yeah, exactly. And it's like the only reason they aren't talking about it is because currently in the public discourse, like AI is still pretty toxic to a lot of people. But I do think that we're starting to see that slowly shift. And there will always be some toxicity towards it, because like it's kind of freaky, in a lot of ways. And people don't respond well to things that are kind of freaky.
Especially art. I feel like people feel like AI can't produce art. They feel like art and like human conscious have to be like married, and they haven't accepted that AI can be an extension of it. No,
exactly. And what really drives me crazy is like you have these artists on Twitter and stuff, or Instagram or TikTok, and they're complaining about AI for the reason that you laid out, right? That they believe it's like a lack of human intervention. But then you go and ask them about data, and you ask them about Duchamp's toilet, right? The signed toilet where he just put his name on it,
right?
All groundbreaking. It's like, okay, so how can you understand that as art, but you can't understand that AI could be art? It's the same process. Like, it's it's curation instead of production, I guess is how I would say it.
And to break the mold, like to get something new, we've got to break the mold, right? So, and that's what AI is doing.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, I had this is a high level visionary long-term question. I asked, well, let me ask you a question first. I feel like it's so easy, especially where we're talking to so many founders developing these like novel use cases of AI and these tools, and we get so in the weeds that I kind of wanted to take a second and just briefly discuss overall, why is the advent and progression of AI important for mankind? I'm curious if you have like a summary, a couple sentences, or any thoughts on that, and then I can tell you my thoughts too.
Two specific benefits that I think are huge. The first, AI is extremely good at writing code. And if it was only good at writing code, let me walk it back slightly. Extremely might be an overstatement, but it's very, very good for writing code. And if it was only good at writing code and good at nothing else, it would still be an incredible invention with insane value. Because anytime you have, something that can reproduce knowledge work, like that's huge. And following up on that, on the note of reproducing knowledge work, to me, the simplest and clearest value proposition for AI is the fact that it provides a new and potentially more durable way of storing and reproducing information. There's all sorts of little bits and pieces of knowledge floating out there, right? That might not make sense to write an article about or put in a book. But they're still out there. And, they might even be written down somewhere already. Like, someone left a comment on Reddit or someone posted a video to YouTube, right? But these are not pieces of knowledge that are widely spread or widely understood. AI offers the ability to distill and crystallize that. And I think that some people underrate that benefit of AI because they see that, it hallucinates. But they don't understand what's going on with the hallucinations under the hood, which is that, like, the machine doesn't have quite enough representation to make an accurate prediction in a particular area, right? So it's like, let's pretend that AI doesn't know anything about cats. It does, obviously, but like, let's pretend that it doesn't. But you ask it to, draw you a cat. And it says, what's a cat? And you tell it, it's you describe a cat. It's probably still going to come up with something that looks more like a dog, And then people are going to be like, oh, it's hallucinating. It doesn't know anything. It's like, well, no, it hasn't seen a cat before.
Right.
So it's doing its best. And another side note on hallucination, a lot of people are overly pessimistic about hallucination, I think. I think that, I don't remember who said it, but essentially, whoever said that the correct amount of hallucination is not zero, I think was correct. You and I hallucinate all the time. All of our memories are an amalgamation of the original event and the actual, the actual memory of what happened in that event, and then a combination of all of our feelings regarding that event and the circumstances in which we discuss the event later. It all slightly alters our perception in our memory. Like, people would go insane if they knew how unreliable eyewitness testimony is, and we've convicted millions of people off of it. Our brains are not nearly as reliable as we'd like to think, and so to apply that as like the standard for AI is hypocritical and narrow-minded, and leads to people underrating what's in front of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's well said. Yeah.
So what's your take?
Yeah, I think you were better about giving specifics. Mine was like very high level, my thought. I think it's important, just like anything. I just started listening to Simon Sinek's book, Start With Why, and he talks about Apple and why, what sets them apart, or what set them apart. Mm-hmm. Maybe others have caught on at this point, but they start with why. And I think with this AI revolution going on, I think it's important for everybody involved to remember why it's important. And in my mind, as I thought about it, it's important because it exponentially increases humankind's capabilities. And that's it. Like, it truly, in every way, every industry, it increases our capabilities exponentially. And if we stop trying to progress that, we're stopping not just a human's potential, but an exponential. It's like, it's no longer just a one-for-one human for human. It's like, with AI, one person, we've seen this with founders, like there's one-person corporations right now, where one person can now do so much with the help of AI. And so I think...
Or like Julius, they have, I think it was 500,000 monthly users, Rahul said, and a team of 5. That is insane.
Team of 5.
Like, to reach that scale, I don't think that was like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the team at Julius is really just that cracked. But I just don't see I don't see a route for an app like Julius to get 500,000 users without the help of AI.
It's absolutely insane. And that's, I was like, let me see what the AI says, why it itself is important. So I asked ChatGPT and Claude, and they both basically said the same thing. And it was that AI is important for humankind because it offers transformative potential across every industry and aspect of life. Claude was a little more specific and said, enhance human capabilities, solve complex global challenges, and drive unprecedented advancements across science, technology, and society, which, is a little maybe self-conceited of the AI to be like, this is why I'm important. But I think it's right. And
you know what? I think it's good that the AI has some good self-esteem, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
He should know he's important. Let's ask Stoner GPT. Why is AI important? Oh man, AI is like super important because it's basically reshaping the whole way we interact with reality. Okay, it's a bunch of dribble, but I just wanted to do it because I thought it would be fun.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, it's incredible. And every time it freaks me out more, I get more excited.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I just can't wait to see what comes next. Because supposedly we are not done with OpenAI releases for the year.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, because 01 was huge. We got GPT-4o this year as well. Eventually, everyone's going to get the voice mode of 4o. I still haven't got it. I'm so sad about it. They released search as well, or at least the beta of search. But yeah, apparently they have another model coming.
That'll be cool to see.
So say the rumors.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of rumors out there.
Lots of cool stuff happening. Hope everyone remembers, why this is all important.
Tuned.
Yeah.
Don't
Is there anything else, Spencer, you wanted to talk about?
No, that feels like a good place to leave off. I think that we I think we covered everything that I wanted to talk about. So
thanks for joining, everybody, for another episode of the
until
AI
next
Rebels
time.
podcast.